Hello, this is Roland Evans again. In the previous introduction video, you may remember, I talked about the rich couple who kept bickering and fighting during the session and how I reacted really badly. One reason for my inability to handle the situation was I was not properly prepared. When you're a beginner counselor, it's essential to prepare for each couple counseling session. However, even when we're more experienced, it's still important not to let our preparation skills lapse. In this presentation, I'll explore some of the ways in which we should prepare ourselves for a couple counseling session. So why should we prepare? It's important not to underestimate the emotional and mental demands that counseling takes on us. There's always much more going on than we can know consciously. If you think about it, there's at least 4 interwoven relationships in the room. The couple's relationship with each other, your relationship with each individual partner, and your relationship with the couple's marriage. That doesn't even take into account each person's relationship with themselves. Almost always, one member of the couple has more fears, hesitations, and resistance to being in the session. Even if their antagonism is not overt, you can still feel it. It's like an atmosphere. Of course, if they are angry with you, it's easy to get thrown off. We all have relationship wounds, some from early in our life with our parents and family, others from adolescent passions, unhappy love affairs, or divorce. Most of us have felt rejected, betrayed, unloved, and misunderstood at some time or other. These relationship wounds can get triggered or evoked during a session, and we need to recognize when we're reacting from the trigger and learn to manage our own emotional storms. If we are unprepared, we can easily get flustered and confused and overwhelmed. In a later video, I will talk about emotional intelligence. So essential self-care skills require that we become emotionally intelligent. So we know what we're feeling, can manage our emotional reactions. Remember, you and your presence are the most important tools that you bring to a session. So you have to take care of yourself and take care of yourself emotionally. Asking yourself some of these simple questions before a session helps you become more aware of your energetic and emotional state. Personally, I use quieting and calming practices before every client, whether individual or couple. I've developed these over the years, and so I only need a few minutes to sit quietly with my eyes closed and to settle. So you need to find your own best methods and make those a regular habit, whether they're praying, meditating, breathing, or talking to yourself. I also like to take short breaks between clients so I can take care of any physical needs. I work from home, so often I use a few minutes to walk into my garden, look at my plants and trees, and reconnect with nature. Taking that little bit of space and time between clients really settles you. During my training and for the first 10 years of practice, I attended weekly supervisions. That was considered not only required, but also essential. That's where I brought my dilemmas, my confusion, and sometimes my successes. I don't have a supervisor now. I constantly read and research different spiritual and psychological topics. I always like to be learning. In fact, this workshop has been a good opportunity to review and learn more about couples counseling. As they say, teaching is often the best form of learning. Before I see a client or clients, I bring them to mind. I review what I know about them, not only from a cognitive point of view, but also from a felt sense. So I try to get a sense of what I think is going on and what I feel about seeing them. Often I get an intuitive feeling of how they are and what I might need to work on in the session. almost always the presenting problem is only the tip of the iceberg. A lot of therapy and counseling is detective work. We have to discover the clues and create theories about the underlying causes of a couple's problems. It's not always there, clear in what they say to us. So if you have a sense of what you feel before a session, compare that with how you feel afterwards. That can give you an indication of whether the session went well, but it also provides a clue to any unexpressed feelings they may have had. So you might feel disappointed after the session, feeling as though it didn't go very well. So you need to ask yourself, is it actually true that I didn't do well? Or could I be picking up the disappointment one or both of the couples feels in the relationship? So make a flexible plan about how you want to start the session. I don't suggest you work too hard on your plan. It's more a set of guidelines as what you need to focus on and accomplish. So don't get rigid and overly structured, but certainly don't let a session wander around. So for example, I may not do paperwork during a first session if I see that a couple is too distraught. It's much better to be present and supportive. But I will make a note to myself to do it early in the next session. I always check to see how a couple has done with the homework. It gives a good indication not only of their involvement, but also whether they take responsibility for creating change. I also like to ask what happened in the past week, as that's usually fresh in the couple's minds. So sometimes I'll go over what we talked about in the last session, or sometimes it will be more about what's happening in the moment. With couples I've seen for a longer period and who have more skills, I may be quiet in the beginning and just give them the space to decide what they want to bring up. Couples, as opposed to individuals, need a more structured approach and a certain amount of guidance. Without structure and guidance, a couple tend to revert to their familiar and dysfunctional relationship patterns. They'll argue about what did or did not happen, blaming each other, relapsing into silence, etc. So you need to create a kind of bounded space in which couples can safely explore their feelings and relationship without it getting out of control. If things do tend to get emotional, or you feel there's something manipulative or abusive going on, you've got to stop it quickly. So especially anger and hurt, when that's being expressed, it's best to take more control by asking a question, setting a goal, shifting focus, or asking for the couple to take time out to reflect. When structuring a session, it's important to reflect and validate each person's feelings and reactions so they know that you understand. In a later video, I'll talk more about questions and how to use questions, particularly to explore emotions. You want a couple to leave the session feeling understood, with a few more insights, a few more skills, and some homework to solidify their relationship gains in real life. If they're looking a bit dispirited, I reinforce the fact that relationship change is very hard work, and they've made just a little bit of headway during the session, whether they acknowledge it or not. I have a personal goal for every session. I like the couple to leave the room laughing, or at least smiling. I've had many people comment that there's often a lot of laughter in my sessions. Relationship work is serious, so it helps to lighten the atmosphere occasionally, to get people involved in seeing their experience from a little bit of distance and seeing the humor in it. Thank you.